Lifestyle.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds, streaming around the world live at the Out of Bounds radio app and on your radio at ESPN 105.9.
where are you?
The Zone.
Oh, man. Hey, we're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. Streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. You can watch the show right now on our webcast. Hit YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. Watch the show. Check out the studio. We're going to have more people in studio in 2021. Looking forward to that. SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Ace Bolt and Screw. Powered by DeWalt Tools. New retail location, Gluckstadt, Madison County. Leading fastener distributor in the Southeast. Ace Bolt and Screw, downtown Jackson, Gluckstadt, Tupelo, Atlanta. Ace Bolt and Screw, powered by DeWalt Tools. You're listening to 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, WRKS, the Out of Bounds Show. We welcome in our friend, LSU Insider, Saints Insider, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. He is Mike Detillier, and boy, this is a big one. Here we go. Last run with the Hall of Famer, Drew Brees, and the Saints host the Bears. They're a 10-point favorite, but we don't know about Drew, Kamara, or Michael Thomas, but we want to start with the Hall of Fame quarterback. Mike, how healthy do you think Drew Brees will be by Sunday afternoon?
Well, I mean, he looked pretty good Sunday, so he's not going to be 100%. He hasn't been, but he's getting better, and you can see it in his play. When you get that age, and you're not going to be consistently great. I think we've gotten used to him just being unbelievable. But he touched greatness Sunday, without Michael Thomas in the lineup, without Alvin Kamara, without Latavius Murray, and just look, Traquan Smith out, Deontay Harris out. Look what he did against that Panthers defense. I mean, he shredded them. Absolutely shredded him, throwing the football. And so he's not going to be 100% till probably July, and that's when he'll be studying tendencies of other teams for, when he's going to be doing his broadcasting new career for NBC. But, he looks pretty doggone good to me.
Okay, so things are trending the right way for the Hall of Fame quarterback, Drew Brees, as they host the Bears this weekend on Sunday. And this is the last hurrah, last ride for number 9. What is the latest on Kamara and Michael Thomas?
Mike's going to be ready to go from all indications. He's battled that high ankle sprain since basically week 1 of the season. He came back, and it didn't respond well. But from all reports that we get, and one thing with Payton, he don't tell you squat, nothing. And if I was in his shoes, I wouldn't say anything either. But Mike seems to be ready to roll, and I think Michael Thomas is the key down the stretch for the Saints in January to get them to play into February. When you look in difficult situations, if you Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, who does he look to? Travis Kelce. But, no matter what, if you've watched them and they get in a bind, he's looking to Kelce. When you watch the Packers and they get, sort of tight a little bit with games, who does Rodgers go to? Devontae Adams. And you look at the Saints, it's Michael Thomas. Mm-hmm. And you need that guy. And, for some males in this world, they don't like to admit somebody's better than the next male. Well, Michael Thomas is better than anybody on that roster as far as receivers concerned. And you need him playing big in January for you to advance. And Michael Thomas is that type player. Now, Drew got the football to 9 different receivers Sunday. And most people, they would have to get the NFL thesaurus to find out about who they are. you know. And so, Austin Carr, he's not somebody that rolls off the name. Now, when I was a kid, Austin Carr was a basketball player for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, Mike's the big piece of the puzzle for me. I think he's the big piece of the puzzle down the stretch, and it looks as though he'll be ready, and it looks as though they'll get him back. Also, Deontay Harris, who I think also plays a big part in this. Setting up field position in the return game, Sean has tried to get him more involved as a receiver and with the jet sweep plays, which he's very good at. So it looks as though both Thomas and Deontay will be back to play against the Bears.
Wow. Okay. Double-digit favorite.
I think it's 9.5. I think it'll, before it's all over with, I think this will be a 10.5 point favorite.
Okay.
I've got a friend of mine. In fact, we grew up together. I lived in a strange neighborhood. Across the street from me, he grew up, was a guy by the name of Shane Sellers. Grew up to be one of the greatest horse jockeys in the 80s and 90s, early 2000s, had a knee injury. Where my house ended, his house started. And I'll never forget, I think he was 15, 16 years old. He said, listen, my dad told us we moving. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, we moving to the big city. I said, man, big city, I think, New Orleans or Baton Rouge, maybe Lafayette. He said, no, Erath. I said, Erath? Dude, you blink your eyes. You pass through Erath if you blink them. And he grew up there, and first time ever been on a horse with him and his brother. They had some horses that they had in a field not far from where we lived. But he grew up there, and there's a gentleman that lived one street over. And was always a big sports fan. Actually, we played a little AAU basketball together. Same thing with baseball. He went to a private school out in Thibodeau, and so we didn't play on the same junior high school teams. But he went on, and he is the chief odds maker for the Wynn Corporation in Las Vegas.
Wow.
So Bobby's like, man, I don't know what the hell was going on down them two streets, but man, they got some crazy stuff going on. And no, he told me yesterday evening, he said, I think this will be, when it's all over with, a 10.5 point game. That there's a lot of money being plunked down on the Saints, and they may have to change that line, because what Vegas doesn't want, if you're an odds maker, is to have all the money kind of sat in one side. They like to kind of, sort of separate the load, because that's how they lose. Well, they rarely lose money, but if you're going to lose money, that's how you're going to lose it.
Right.
And so he feels as though this will be a 10.5 point game by kickoff.
And do you like that? Or, I feel like the Saints will win, but is that too many for you, Mike?
No, I think it's about right. I think the Saints will win, and I think we will win by double digits. Again, this football team has always been a pretty focused team this year, despite obvious distractions. Because every day it's something different. You fought it early on with the COVID situation. That was, the Drew Brees comments of the summer, which kind of set off a little bit of a firestorm, and, Sean and the team and Drew were able to put that out pretty quickly, and I think Drew addressed it with his teammates. Maybe someone else, maybe it'd have been a little bit more sensitive issue, but I think, listen, man, he's done a lot for this community, tremendous amount. And, for people to say he's a racist guy and all, come on. He maybe didn't say, it correctly, so to speak, politically correct. He doesn't have a script writer. But they've been able to fight that through a lot of injuries this year and everything else. And I think this team is pretty focused. They understand that this is a talented team, and that you may not come this way again. And number 9, this is it for him. And so you understand that they've had a lot of good teams and been knocked out of the playoffs in unconventional manner. Okay, the thing with the Rams with the no call is one thing. You got that Minnesota game with the walk off at the end. With Diggs scoring. Sort of a strange game against the Vikings a year ago. I thought they were flat as a pancake against Minnesota in the first half. They fought back, took a lead in the second half, only for it to go into overtime, and then Cousins catches them. And again, I can't explain why Kirk has played good games against the Saints, but he has. And so I think, almost like it's time, that this is their time. And I think they understand that very well. As a coaching staff, as a team, they've been able to keep a lot of the same elements in place. It will not be that way in 2021. You're not going to be able to keep everybody. Salary cap going down, some key players coming up for contracts. You got your front office people like Terry Fontenot and Jeff Ireland that are not being pursued by other teams. You potentially could lose some assistant coaches on this team. They understand this is kind of the last sort of tour for the band.
Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone. Mike Detillier joins us on the Miller Lite guest line. Saints will host the Bears at 3:40 on Sunday. And this is the last ride for number 9 in what has been a spectacular career. And we all know what he and Payton have done for this franchise. Who needs to be what are they going to rely on here to get to the NFC Championship game? Is it going to be more defense or offense, Mike?
I think their offense has carried them for years, but their defense has really played well. And so I'm going to go that route, that they put a lot of time and effort and draft choices and free agent people on the defensive side of football. It's the best defensive team in the Payton time frame. It's much better. It's better than the 2009 team. It's better than it got to be better than the 2011 team. That team, they just hit you with the offensive tsunami. I thought they were maybe a little bit overrated on defense. But this team's loaded up front along the defensive line. The linebacking core took a hit in losing Quan Alexander. No question about it. Their secondary, last week kind of got wiped out with the COVID situation. So, but they've got pretty good depth there and talent. So I think it's going to get carried by what carries in January, a defense and a running game. Sean Payton is averaging this year 140 yards rushing a game. It has never happened on his watch. It's the best rushing team he's ever had. And Sean got the virus sometimes. Sometimes he don't like to run the ball.
Sure.
He just want to throw it. And then we've talked about it. But this team, he's had patience in running the football. And I do believe that the running game and the defense is what's going to be. If they get there, it's going to be because of those two elements.
What's the stat you throw out, Mike, on rushing the football under Sean?
I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's 85 wins, 4 losses when they rush the football 30 times or more in a game.
It's incredible.
No, listen, he poo-poos that. And I tell him he's full of horse hockey. And listen, they got, these analyst people too. Oh, the rushing game is just part of the success of the Saints offense. Come on, dude, you don't know what the hell you're talking about if you think that. If you run the football effectively early in the game, Sean's going to run it. And I do think it's part of it, and he won't argue this thing. I do think the league is getting smaller defensively. You're going to nickel probably 70, 75% of the time. and you're going to the dime, 60%, somewhere in that range. So you're taking out bigger people and you're going with smaller people because of the coverage part of the game. The offensive coaches are, okay, you do that. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to run it. So now I got my big people going up against, instead of a 240-pound linebacker, against a 200-pound safety. Okay, I didn't go to Yale or Harvard or Cornell, but even I can figure this out, that the law of physics says you're going to get your butt run over. And you see it now, teams adjusting to this smaller defense with all this array of running backs coming out of college, that we can hit you not with one runner, we can hit you with a couple and just sort of bang away. And then, you know what, as your safety comes in to try to help in run support, then I can throw over the top. So, man, you're in the rocket chair. I told this to Brian Flores 2 years ago, who was the first one who brought it up to me. We had the Louisiana line camp, so, man, you got a lot of testosterone running around in the room with all these guys talking about the different coverages and throwing the football. Brian Flores was an assistant coach with the Patriots at that time. He was really running the defense for Belichick. And he stands up on a chair and he said, well, let me tell you guys something. And he said, you're going to listen to me right now. He said, all this stuff about covering the pass is all great and fine. And we got to do something to limit that. But if we don't stop the run, all of us here are going to be unemployed. Because he said, look at what's happening. He just explained what I did about we're getting smaller and they're getting bigger up front. We're not going to be able to match up. We better be able to figure out how to stop the run, because we're going to enter an age where teams are going to start to run the football more. With all these backs coming out, like he said, for every defensive tackle that's pretty good, I can find me 3 running backs in the NFL that's pretty good. So he said, okay, where are we going with this? And he made an impassioned speech about it to these young coaches. And I said, you know what? That guy's going to be a head coach one day. I didn't have to wait long. Within 7 months, he was the head coach of the Dolphins. I think, Bo, part of the trend you're seeing, you got to have the great quarterback. And receivers, man, you can get them all over the place now. But that ability to control the clock, control the tempo of a game with a running game is so huge now in the NFL. You could say, well, Kansas City, look, well, even with Mahomes, okay, why did they use a first-round pick on Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Why did they go out in free agency and sign Le'Veon Bell if it didn't mean anything to them?
Right.
I just think that is something that is not written about much, not talked about much on talk show radio, because everybody want to talk about throwing the football. And these analytics guys, they so caught up in these passing numbers, they fail to recognize the big boy football that is still played in the NFL and also in college football. I'm watching Alabama. Okay, you're going to try to stop Najee Harris. See how much fun that is when he's rolling. Hasn't he been such a huge part of that offensive attack, where you can say, okay, we'll just drop a couple extra people in coverage to help. Okay, you do that and see what happens. He's running over people and through people. And so I'm just telling you that while you're not going to hear it a lot and read it a lot from most people, running the football and stopping the run is still a huge part of college and pro football. And I think always will.
All right, we've got a couple of minutes here. Mike Detillier, WWL Radio on the Miller Lite guest line. Mike, Derrick Henry, to piggyback off what you're talking about, I mean, who do you compare him to of a generation or so ago, the way he's built and the way this guy can dominate a game?
Well, there's nobody in the league like him today. He's a man amongst men. as far as a big man. When you stand up next to him, and he's a 6'3" plus, 255 plus runner. In the 70s, the comparison would be Larry Zonka. That's Zonka wasn't quite as big, but that's what he did. He beat you up. Now, Derrick is faster than Larry. As physical, man, listen, people who remember Larry Zonka in the 70s with the Dolphins, that guy was as physical a runner as you could get. Once he got rolling, you were in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. People have say, Christian Okoye. No, come on. Derrick Henry's a better player than Christian Okoye when he was with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's a better player.
No question.
Franco Harris, I've heard that comparison. My thing is, did you watch Franco play? Franco, he would, he wasn't as physical a player as Derrick Henry was. So for physicality, it would be Zonka. And all I know is his bust is in the NFL Hall of Fame.
Right. Incredible. What he's been able to accomplish. Mike Detillier.
And I know he's doing it. Okay, I know he's going to run it. Here's my issue, stopping it.
Well.
Because today, ain't a lot of 210-pound safeties.
No.
I want to catch you in the hole. And you see that big train running at you, and you hear the whoa.
Hey, Mike, it's like, especially 3 and 4 and 5 years ago, it's like getting in the way of LeBron when he's going to the rim. I mean, 6'8", 255. I think you just nailed it with Derrick Henry, 6'3 plus, 250. Nobody wants any of that. Well, should be an exciting weekend, and the Saints play at 3:40 on Sunday afternoon in the Superdome against the Chicago Bears. And as Mike said, it's sitting at about 9.5, and people expect it to go to 10.5 points, just depending on what shakes out here over the next few days. Mike, hopefully the game goes well, and the Saints are playing the Packers next weekend.
Well, the Saints will play Seattle.
Oh, Seattle. My bad. That's right. Okay, so
Seattle
Rams,
wins,
Seattle.
Seattle.
Got it. Ooh, Russell Wilson. Neither option's good, I guess. All right. Mike D on the Out of Bounds Show. Thanks, Mike. Be good, buddy.
Thank you, Bob.
Mike Detillier on the Miller Lite guest line and the Abita Andy Gator guest line. You can enjoy an Abita Andy Gator with some char-broiled oysters at Drago's Seafood Restaurant and Oyster Bar. We have more college football to get into in the third hour. And Dave Bartu stops by CFP Matrix to discuss Steve Sarkisian going to Texas. And I don't know, Harbaugh going to the NFL in the next few days? We'll see what shakes out there. The show is brought to you by Four Roses Small Batch Bourbon. You can find it at Briarwood Wine and Spirits.